Hey folks, my name's Ed Trevors. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm an Anglican priest serving in the beautiful parish of Christchurch-Shelburne that sits on the ancestral and on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I've been wearing a hat all day and I feel like my hair is an absolute mess. Mind you, there's nothing there to mess. Anyway, if it is, you guys tell me in the comments. We started a conversation yesterday about flipping the tables. It's kind of a clunky way of describing letting go of things, clearing out the clutter, doing some spring cleaning in our mental closet, in our psychological aspects of the world, and all of those other kinds of terms that we could use about this. Today, what I want to offer you is our need to let go of our idea that we know something. What I mean by that is this. Let me tell you a little story. So last year, my sister recommended a book to me. She recommended the book 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson. Now, the very fact that I mentioned that book and that author, half of the people out there are probably going, I've read that book. That was a great book. I love that book. The other people are probably looking to unsubscribe to the channel. I read that book, thought it was okay. Now, fast forward to yesterday. I'm reading a review of his new book. I think it's like 12 More Rules or something along those lines, Beyond 12 Rules. And I'm reading this review, and in this review, it's kind of negative, right? You can tell that the author of the review has a pretty definite understanding of what they think of Jordan Peterson and the initial book. And as I'm reading the review, I'm going, I never saw 12 rules in that same way. That's really interesting. And so I'm going back into my memory of the book, and I'm applying what this reviewer says. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, I can see that. I can see that too. Yes, that would be, I get it. And so all of a sudden, like the hamsters have all just run off in their own direction, and all kinds of information's flooding over me. Now, I never felt threatened by the review. Okay, I'm not invested in that book. I read it. My sister recommended it. I read it. There was I took some stuff out of it. I read the review. I took some stuff out of that review. But my opinion, my idea of the book was never so fixed in my sense of being that I couldn't listen to somebody offer me something else. But sometimes, myself included, we do have those ideas. We have those ideas that this is the way it is. This is how it is. This is what it says. This is the perception. This is the interpretation. And anything else that comes from the outside that says anything different is wrong. And not only wrong, but when we've truly invested in the idea that we have, that we own, sometimes that information coming from the outside will threaten us in such a way that we will choose to die on that hill, fighting for our interpretation, fighting for our opinion, fighting for our thought. And this is the thing that we need to be able to flip this over. I made mention of a video a long time ago about my English teacher who once told me the saddest day of your life is the day you stop learning. Well, you stop learning when you come to believe that you know everything. Right? You stop learning when you come to believe that you know everything. I was in a church one time, my grandmother's church, my grandmother Hebert, she's Pentecostal. And so I took her to church one day. This was years ago when I was still in seminary. And the minister, he got up and he started preaching. And he started preaching from the book of the prophet Amos. And I'm listening to him. That's not what that means. That's not what that means. And while he was preaching, I spent the entire time arguing, in my head, of course, with him that he was wrong. I missed everything he said. And it wasn't until I talked to my grandmother later, she said, "What did you think of the sermon?" I said, "Well, I thought it was..." She said, "Really? Well, he said this and this and this." And I went, "Oh, yeah, that would have made more sense." Oh, right? I held on to that interpretation. Can you imagine what it would be like if I, doing these videos and offering you an interpretation, needed you to be in complete agreement with my interpretation? Holy John, I'd go out of my mind. I'd go crazy. There'd be no way I could do this. I explained to you on Monday that I feel nervous standing here talking to you through this camera, through this medium. Can you imagine if I need you to be in complete agreement with everything I say? Absolutely not. It's one of the reasons that I call these videos reflections. It's not about making you agree with me. They're about offering you something to think about. We all carry these ideas with us that we know it. Somebody will say something and I already know this. I don't need to hear it again. Somebody will offer us a different way of seeing something. And no, I know the answer to that. Sometimes it's really innocuous. Sometimes it's trite. Sometimes it's completely flippant. Sometimes it's very deep-seated. Sometimes we know it, sometimes we don't. At the end of the day, we should always be willing to listen. One last self-deprecating story. This happened literally just as I was coming over to the church to film this video. My kids really like pancakes, and sometimes it's difficult to get them to eat anything but pancakes. I mean, we'll cook pancakes in the morning, leave them there on the countertop, and when they come home after school, they'll grab pancakes and eat pancakes. I said to my wife, "You know what? We should add a little protein powder to these pancakes. Like get a little unflavored protein powder, add them to the pancake mix when we make them." And she went on to tell me that there's this guy on YouTube, like she watches another guy on YouTube. What is that about? Anyway, but she said there's a guy on YouTube that she watches who does these great recipes. He takes favorite dishes and he finds a way of making them as healthy as possible. And he found a way of making beautifully, wonderful, fluffy pancakes using oat flour. And this and this and this and this and this. And I said, "Well, that all sounds fine, but all I wanted to do was add a scoop of unflavored protein powder to a scoop of pancake mix and make some pancakes." I completely tuned out to what she was telling me. I listened. I'm smart enough that I listened. But my first instinct was to shoot her idea down because I already had the idea. I already had my way of moving forward. Anyway, this is starting to feel more like therapy for me than it is a reflection for us. So, at the end of the day, I hope that you are able to flip the tables of the things that you think you already know. I hope you're able to flip the tables of that mentality, that the things we know are ours and they must be protected, that they are right and true and pure, and there is nothing else out there that can speak into them. I hope you're able to flip those tables so that you can hear the voices of others offer you insight and wisdom that maybe we haven't considered already. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you, and may you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. I pray that we'll flip these tables, that these things that aren't incredibly useful to us anymore and that may actually be limiting us, that we can be done with them, that we can let something new enter into this space. Amen.